After spending 4.5 years living on a narrowboat and cruising the entire canal system, you now join us as we embark on a huge project to renovate our home. If you've watched our recent videos, you'll already know that the renovation is getting very out of hand. In the last video, we discovered water under our kitchen, and this meant we had to cut a huge hole in our floor.
So it's the next day, and it's a Sunday, and it's about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I've come back to do the second coat in the bottom half of the kitchen. I'm not sure if I've even explained why we're doing the bottom half of the kitchen, because basically it's going to be covered by the fridge, the cooker and the cupboards. The wood's fine, but the surface of the wood is a little bit compromised, like not really badly at all. But that area is quite cold, like inside the cupboards, and there has been condensation there in winter when the rest of the boat's been warm and the outside of the boat's been really cold. So it just seems sensible that while the whole kitchen's out, just to put a bit of protection on the wood basically. Yeah, did the first coat last night, looking very patchy because it's just primer. Come back to do a second coat today, and then we'll probably use like a kitchen paint in there, which will be a bit more hardy than normal paint. Yep, so that's my first job of the day.
So I've just wire brushed the bottom of the boat, and Joe is sugar soaping it at the moment before we backhand it. Backhand to do the rust conversion. We've treated the rust. Well, we're about to treat the rust. Then we're going to prime over it with red oxide, and then we're going to fill in the hole. So yeah. It's nice to see that it's actually in pretty good condition. Like, we've seen videos of other people who've had this problem where they've had water in the bottom of the boat and they've had like sheets of rust developing down there. We're lucky. Liverpool designed our boat kind of like the Titanic, with a bunch of waterproof compartments leading to each compartment kind of holding its own water. And this is the one that we found almost all the water in, and so far anyway, all we found is tiny little specks of rust and everything around the edges. So, you know, it's really very surface, no sponging, no kind of distortion or anything. So yeah, pretty good. Pretty glad to know that that's been keeping us from the bottom for this long. Kind of wish we could drill in a fish window now, but decided against it.
Now Michael's applying the Vactan. It's essentially a liquid that neutralises the corrosion process by converting the rust into a solid black coating once it's dried.
Yeah, the dehumidifier will dry it, yeah.
It covers real well.
Probably can't see it, but oh yeah, maybe you can see it. Michael has written minimalist in our bilge, in Vactan, like you do, or Vactan, one or the other.
There isn't much room under our well deck, so this is how I had to position myself to apply the Vactan under there.
So it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We have to head to Screwfix because it's a Sunday and they close early. Yesterday we spent about £300 on the miscellaneous plumbing supplies required for our plumbing retrofit. And today we're going back to buy a £17 supply I completely forgot about. We also have to pick up some interior paint. And now that we've decided on colors, or at least somewhat decided on colors, today, while Joe was underneath getting the well deck back into usable condition, I've painted a layer of bilge paint onto our 3 pieces that are going to go into, retrospectively, the front left, the front right, and the patch, front left, front right of the well deck, and the patch for the kitchen floor. We wanted to make them as watertight as possible. I've also figured out, just traced back some of the electrics and figured out which of the ones in the bathroom lead where, because we're going to end up having to potentially rewire some of that and add some conduit in. Good fun. Joe's been underneath the stairs first washing the area of all of its rust, like scrubbing out the rust, then sugar soaping the rust to get rid of any grease and everything, then vac tanning the inside of the well deck while trying not to get too loopy from the fumes. She also painted the kitchen this morning with primer, and now it's got 2 coats of primer. We also tried out some tester paints, and we think we've decided on either the pure white or the dark gray. We definitely found out we don't like the yellow whites, which we thought we might like the yellow whites, but it turns out they look kind of like somebody urinated on something. So, not for the faint of heart. The paint, not the urination. Anyway.
So there, the boards to go underneath the well deck in the corners. One of them is going to have the plumbing, accumulator and pressure pump mounted on, and this big one is the patch for the kitchen. Here is some of the pipe that we bought and our radiators that are no longer on the wall.
Here's the new labeling.
Here's Michael's
fancy labeling. Forgive the fact that the labels don't match the appropriate color codes. The UK has old and new color codes for AC and DC wiring, and so nothing actually matches what goes on in a car. And whoever wired this in seemed to just make it up as they went along. So I've got blue wires, which are supposed to be, I believe, neutral, being used as both positive and negative terminals of a DC system. And I've got blue-black conductor when I'm supposed to have blue-brown conductor. But anyway, it's, yeah, it's a mess. But it's labeled up now. At least I found out which switches lead where.
That's good. This is the kitchen that's got no plumbing in it, but it's got 2 coats of primer on the wall. There's the hole in the floor that is soon not going to be a hole in the floor, and it's still getting dried out. And then, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to turn this off. These are the colour tests that we did. This is like, I think it's called Natural Calico. It's quite light and quite yellow. This one isn't just an ivory. It's a little bit more orange. And then this one, you probably can't even see it, is called Cotton White, I think. And it's as close to Brilliant White as I think we want to go. And then, and we might even be doing that with a whitewash effect. We just still need to test the whitewash. And then the grey down here, I can't remember what this one's called, but this is for the lower half of the boat, we think. But we might try out a few different greys to see if there's ones we like more. But that coverage is amazing. That's just 1 coat, so pretty impressed with that. And then this is the R-tool station that is organised, even though it may not look organised. This is where the plumbing parts live. 3 pumps, 2 of them are going in, 1 of them's not. The accumulator. And then this is my little dungeon that I've been in for hours, scraping back the rust. I mean, the metal's in perfect condition. It's just the paint that they put on to try and preserve it has failed in a few places. So there's some tiny rust spots, but it's really, yeah, really solid. So just to give us a little bit more life, we have scraped out the rust, hoovered up the rust dust, and then we have washed it all out with first sugar soap and then water. And then we've put Bactan or Bactan, I can't remember. Worried it's a little bit cold in here because you're not supposed to do it when it's cold. But we'll see how well that dries over the next 24 hours. And then I can go in and just put a coat of bilge paint in there, which will, 1, brighten it up because the bilge paint that Andrew has lent us or given us is bright white. And then the plumbing can go in. Monday morning, time to do the final coat on the kitchen, behind the cupboards, and then the plumbing's going to start today as well. So hopefully this will be touch dry pretty soon and they can start doing that. And then I just need to paint inside the well deck. And then the rest of the boat.
We've already removed most of the old plumbing, but here Michael and Andrew are taking out what's left of the radiator pipes. Once the Vactan on the kitchen floor has dried, it turns this black colour, and I can then apply a coat of protective bilge paint onto the steel.
Okay, so renovations day N+. We're taking off a little early tonight because there's a bunch of paint fumes in the boat, and I'm already a bit loopy. Joe was working down in the well deck. She does have a mask on that is good PPOE. Not PPOE. PPOE is for VPNs. Don't worry about that. Anyway, good PPE. However, it's a quite constrained area, and yeah, it's not just particulates. It's the ever faithful, ever fun organic fumes. Anyway, I'm going to open some windows in a second so that I can get some more air in here. Don't worry, it's not me really being loopy. It's literally the fact that I've had too many days of doing this and not enough sleep, and this isn't helping. The dehumidifier is helping to dry that out. We have done some work today, Andrew and I, mainly Andrew if I'm being honest, cleaning up all of the pipework area on the radiator side of the boat. So we're replacing the whole radiator system, and the reason why we're doing that, we're keeping the radiators, but we're replacing the piping, and it's because in doing the work to prepare to paint the boat, we want to be able to move the radiators. In moving the radiators, we've had to disturb the old slip fit connections. The old slip fit connections were not very good to begin with, and we've had leaks all over the boat. We've had water damage all over the boat, and everywhere there's been water damage has been because one of those old slip fits failed. So we want to replace all of that with new John Guest stuff. This wasn't supposed to fall out, but that was the leg of one of the radiators. And fundamentally, when they installed it, they did some like practice cuts or something. We're not really sure. But we're going to be replacing some of the chrome pipe. Andrew saw it, that when this was placed into position, these things were like right at the O-ring, so you had the possibility of antifreeze leaking through. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's really just like, it's worked for 20 years. So it's kind of that if it ain't broke, don't fix it thing. But as soon as we moved everything, we essentially did break all the seals. So it's probably best that we're doing this, even though it means quite a large bill from Screwfix and a fair amount of time. I'm glad we're doing this because it also allows us to move the radiator channeling, the boxing in that was done, was actually quite loose. So there was the space that the radiator pipes themselves were taking up, and then there's the space that the cables for the bow thruster were taking up. And then there was the space of a batten, which are over here, where they put sort of two in, and they made it so that the wall would attach to the batten, and then the batten and the wall, then where the edge that the carpet came up to. We're going to do floating floors, which means we want to have it go under the side skirt that's coming down, which means that we sort of want the batten to float on the floor probably, and allow expansion in there, or we want it to float over the floor. Anyway, we're not really sure yet how we're going to make the connection, but we do know that it's not going to be butted up to against carpet, and we'd like to get those millimeters back where we can. So by taking our old pipe work out, we can put in new fixtures that allow us to attach to the wall, moving the pipes a little closer to the wall, allowing us to move the bow thruster cables so that they're above and behind the pipe so that they're not creating extra room, so we can save probably about 1 centimeter of space and have the boxing in be smaller, a little bit less unattractive, but also give us more floor space for just walking through. And yeah, so overall, it's a worthwhile bit of work, but it means a lot of prep and a lot of cleanup, removing a heck of a lot of screws. In removing those screws, finding out that a heck of a lot of those screws stayed embedded in the wood and broke off, and so then Andrew had to go in with a hammer and a pair of vice grips and sort of get them out, while I was outside cutting up the old piping and getting it ready for disposal. So while we're at it, Joe has painted the backsplash area and the cabinet area with our nice new cotton white color, and that will really just not be like essentially it's more of an experiment than anything else. We just wanted to see how well the paint covers. But it will also form the color of the cabinets at the back and inside, so we want a nice durable finish in there. So we're using a good paint that we intend to use for the rest of the boat in places. So yeah, it's gone on really nicely, created a nice solid color. And she's also done the bilge paint down in our new soon-to-be patched floor hole, which has dried out very nicely. And yeah, so what I'm going to do now is start to take this very big coil of 22 mil radiator pipe and run it from the back to the front twice. So I'm going to leave the loop back here and then run the cut ends down to that end. And that puts us into a position to start doing the actual radiator install tomorrow. So yeah, with any luck, we'll get to that tomorrow. So yeah, that's where we're at. Day N plus N now. N plus 1, N plus 2. Many days into a very big renovation. Hope you've enjoyed watching. If you have, give us a thumbs up and comment down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, tune in next time for more adventures in trying not to sink your boat from the inside.